You can fix your child's maths problem by getting them to study Year 7 maths. Year 7 maths is the very foundation on which most of their secondary school maths and other mathematical concepts, if they wish to carry on studying mathematics at university, is going to be built on. Hello, welcome to Block 4, Place Value, Ordering Integers and Decimals. Lesson 4. I'll share my screen. In your previous lesson, you learned how to work out intervals on a number line. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to position integers on a number line. This again is a very important concept you must understand, and it's going to be really useful when you want to choose scale for plotting graphs. But before we start, I would like you to pause the video and answer these retrieval practice questions, or some of you call it starter. To get you started, you can pause the video and answer these questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For question 1, you were asked how many intervals are between A and B on the number line. You can see A here and you can see B there. There are 3 intervals. I do hope you have not forgotten how we count intervals. So there are 1, 2, and 3. So intervals are the spaces in between, not these, not the bars. So there are 3 intervals between A and B. What is the size of each interval? Well, we can work this out by finding the difference between A and B, which is 15. So 45 minus 30 is 15. And then we can divide 15 by the number of intervals. That would give us 5. Okay. Now you ask, what is the difference between A and C? One way to work this out is to know that there are 5 intervals between A and C. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if we know that each interval is worth 5, then we can do 5 times 5 to get the actual value of the difference between A and C. Another approach would be to write the numbers on the number line, since you know that the intervals are worth 5 each, so you can start to complete the numbers on the number line, and then you can work out 55 minus 30. It will give you the same answer. Okay, let's do our first learning. Going to rub this off. If we have this number line and we're asked to label where the number 70 would be, how would we approach this? Well, the first step is to find out what each interval is worth. And to find that out, we have to do 100 minus 0. So we find the value of the difference between the start of the number line and the end of the number line. We can also see that there are 10 intervals. So if we divide 100 by 10, we're going to find that each interval is worth 10. And then we can use that information to complete the number line. And that shows us that 70 is going to be in that position. But what about this number line? the one below, the one we just looked at above, we can see that it's of the same width as the one above. It's 100, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals. So to find out what each interval is worth, we can divide 100, which is the difference between the start and the end of this number line, by 5, which is the number of intervals. That gives us 20. So we can use that information to complete our number line. Now, if 20, 40, 60, 80 are in these positions, of course, we know 70 will be halfway between 60 and 80, and we can put that label there. Now, look at the number line below. There, we know that the number line is still of the same width as the one above, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals. So if we divide 100 by 4, that will give us the value of what each interval is worth. We can then use that information to complete the number line. However, where exactly do we put 70? When we think about it initially, you may put it there. Well, that may make sense, but when you think again, if all the number lines are of the same width, then 70 should be in the same position all along. So we can shift our arrow to the correct position. We should be there. Okay. So what we've learned so far before you do some practice exercise is that you can use the information of knowing what each value of the intervals on the number lines are. If you know what the value is, you can then find a way to put a label on the correct position on the number line. I would like you to pause the video and answer question 1 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've really worked hard on this question, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For question 1, you were asked to label where the number 60 would be on each of the number line. Now you can see that the information here are your answers. So we use exactly the same method we used before to work out where the number, sorry, it's 600, I mean to say, not 60, where the number 600 would be. Okay, let's move on. Here is the question for number 2. Question number 2. Pause the video for 2 minutes and answer question number 2. Assuming you've paused the video and you've really thought about this, here are the answers. Here you're asked to work out where would the number 50 be on each of these number lines. And then you should mark the numbers, mark each number line with an arrow. I'll just discuss the first one. Here you can see that the number between the number line goes from 0 to 100. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 intervals. So what we could do is we could say, now that we know that the difference is 100 minus 0, so this is going back to our previous lesson, using ideas from our previous lesson. This is 100. We'll do, to find out what interval is worth, we'll do 100 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each is worth 20. So we can use that information to complete our number line. which gives us this. Now we know 50 should be halfway between 40 and 60, so that is in the correct position. Here, I would like to discuss B as well. We can see that we have 300 and 0. So if we do 300 minus 0, that is 300. Now we have 1, 2, 3. So if we have 3 intervals, it means each interval is worth 300 divided by 3, which is 100. Now, if we use that information to complete this number line, this should be 100, that should be 200. Now, halfway between 0 and 100 should be 50. And you can see it's in the correct position. Okay, you can mark your work for the other parts of the question. Okay, here is question 3. You can pause the video for 2 minutes to answer question 3. Assuming you've paused the video and you've really worked hard on this question, here are the answers. So here you asked, what does this number line go up in? To be able to answer that question, you could simply look at 200 and the start of the number line. But we don't really know what value the number line starts in. So I think it's helpful to use the number we have. So we have 200 here and 400 here. So 400 minus 200 is 200. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we do 200 divided by 5, that should give us 40. Now, we can begin to use that information to complete our number line if we choose to do so. Now, that will give us here will be 40, 60, 80. I think that's not quite right. Just a minute. No, that's my mistake. I was adding 20s, yeah? So that would be 40. That would be 80. That would be 120 and 160, okay? So the first question, what does this number line go up in is 40s. And then write these numbers on the number line, and then we can begin to position the numbers in the number line. Okay, let's move on. What if we have a number line like this? So the question here, so first example, before you do the next set of practice exercise, is label where the number 65 would go on the number line. Now you can clearly see that between 0 and 200, our value is 200. So the difference between the start of the number line and the end of the number line is 200. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 intervals. So we can do 200 divided by 5. That gives us the value of the interval, which is 40. And then we can use that information to complete the number line. Now we're being asked where we can put 65. Now, between 40 and 80 is halfway. Yeah. So we know that that number can be 60. All right. Because between 40 and 80, our value is 40. Now, halfway between 40 and 80 has to be 20, because half of 40 is 20. So if we add 20 to 40, that will be 60. Now, 65, we'll be thinking, where could we put that? Well, we could draw something else between 60 and 80, which is 70. So this here is 70. This one here. Now, once we have that information, I think it's clear to see that 65 will be halfway between 60 and 70. So questions like this should not scare you. All right. Just using the right approach, like if you've been shown here, you should be able to answer questions like this, being able to place integers correctly on a number line. Okay, I'll let you have a think for about a minute. Where would you put these numbers on the number line? Okay, assuming you've paused the video, you've worked on this, here are the answers. So it's a quick win for you, quick celebration. You have shown that you can actually apply your knowledge on simple tasks like this. Here is another one. If we asked, where would you mark an estimate for the position of 2137 on the number line? Take note of the word estimate. It's not going to be exact, but it should be close enough for you to get the marks if you were doing this in a test. Here you have 1000 as the start of the number line and 4000. Have you noticed that this is quite different from the number lines we've been working with? What do you notice? Well, the first thing I notice is that the number line is not marked for us. So we're going to have to put some markings on there by ourselves. Between 4000 and 1000, the difference is 3000. Well, if we think about it, we can split 3000 into 3 equal parts, which means we can have 3 intervals between 1000 and 4000. That is our beginning, the start. So if we put that information, this is what we have. Now, we know that 2137 is going to be closer to 2000 than 3000. So we can just put that there. Where would you put 3492 on the number line? Have a think. Well, 3492 is actually really close to 3500. Now, if you think about it, 3000 and 4000 has halfway between it, 3500. So 3492 would be close to 3500, just before that position there. Okay, what we've learned so far is you can use estimates to place integers in the correct position on a number line, but you still have to apply your knowledge of knowing how to work out the value of intervals on a number line and using that information to complete the interval. Now, it's important to note that sometimes you'll be given a number line where the divisions have not been done for you. You have to put the correct divisions on those number lines. Okay, pause the video and answer question 4 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've really worked hard on this, here are the answers for question 4. For B, for A, you ask, how do you know Annie is incorrect? We know Annie is incorrect because 1200 is above the, is close to 1500. I think it's 1000. 1300 is close to 1500 than 1000. So the arrow isn't. Okay, so the arrow is in the wrong position. Yeah. So 1,300 should be closer to the other part of that number line between 1,000 and 1,500. And then estimate what number the arrow is pointing to. That number could be 1,100. Okay? All right, let's move on. Here is question 5 and 6. Pause the video and answer these questions in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through these questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. For question 5, you were asked, here is a number line from 0 to 5,000. Estimate where the number 2,000 would be. Well, we know between 0 and 5,000, we have 5,000. So first, halfway, we know is going to be 2,500. So 2,000 should be a little bit further away to the left of 2,500. And for this one, 4,263 should be about this position here. Here is the answer to question 6. Here you're asked to estimate the value the arrow is pointing to on the number line. Well, this one we can see that here it's 400. So between 0 and 400, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals. So it means that if each interval is worth 400, is worth 100, because we can simply do 400 divided by the number of intervals, which is 100. So we can do 400 divided by 4 because we have 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals between 0 and 400. So we know that the value is 100. So we can begin to complete the number line, which will help us find out what this number is. Now we can start to put numbers. That's 100, 200, 300. So that should be 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and then 1,000. Now we can see that between 600 and 700, it has to be 650. Okay. And then for this one, we can use the same approach to do it. We see that we have 900 and then we have 3 intervals. So if we do 900 divided by 3, that will be 300. So each interval is worth 300. So if we have 300 here, we can split 300 into 3 equal parts. So it means this is 100, that is 200. So that position should be about 260. You can see it's a little bit way past halfway between this position and that position. And then here, is it possible for 2 people to get different answers but both be correct? Yes, because it's an estimate. Remember, I mentioned that at the start of these exercises. Here is question 7. I'm going to rub this off. Question 7, you asked, estimate, just a minute. Let's get it correct because, yeah. So here you ask question 7, estimate the temperature on each thermometer. So you can see it's applied in other aspects. Let's say you want to take somebody's temperature or you want to measure the temperature of a liquid, of a substance, or of the room. So you should be able to make correct estimates. So for these, it's important you read the scale. Yeah. So you see what I was talking about. So you have 1. Okay, so here are the answers, assuming you've paused the video and worked through it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we have 10 intervals between 0 and 50. So if we do 50 divided by 10, the number of intervals we know is going to be 5. So if we start putting values, that will be 5, that will be 10, that will be 15. And then you can see if that's 15, that's going to be 20. And you can see it's halfway, almost halfway between 15 and 20. So it should be about 18. Okay. And then here is the answer for this one. And then the other one. So that brings us to the end of our lesson. So what have you learned? In this lesson, you have learned that you can use the skill of knowing how to work out the value of the interval on a number line. Now remember, you work out the difference in the values, and then you use the amounts you have gotten. You use it, you divide that amount by the number of intervals. Once you get that information, you can begin to work out by even sometimes subdividing the intervals again to find out exactly the position where you can place your integer on your number line. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.